let's do a hypothetical. Let's say you're an attorney working with a third party to put in place a contract for building a city in the sky. What's going to be the biggest risk you're going to guard against? I'll give you a little bit of time to think about it, and I'll also give you a warning that this won't be the last time that fantasy is brought into this discussion. All right, time's up. I'm sure that a lot of you thought about the fact that if you have a giant object coming barreling back into the earth at some point, you're going to want to guard against all the property damage and personal injury suits. So you're going to want to build in some pretty hefty insurance, indemnification, limitation of liability, all of our favorite attorney topics. Fortunately, there's actually been real case studies about what damages to guard against. And back when Skylab came back into the Earth's atmosphere, despite all of the hysteria about the re-entry, I mean, I get it, asteroids are really terrifying, so are re-entering space stations. But despite that, and with the exception of a $400 fine in Perth, Australia for littering, the largest financial impact of the re-entry was a payout by a San Francisco paper for someone who brought them the largest piece of debris. Pulling this further into reality, working for a company that is building the world's first commercial space station, I have to think about what's material on a daily basis. You know, they hammer that into our heads in law school. Materiality is important because you have to focus on the biggest element, and it's important in evidence and in torts. But what's material to me is often very different from what's material to our engineers, for example. And they don't focus on the 9.8 meters per second squared version of gravity very often. They focus on their own little gravity well, whether that's avionics, environmental control systems, or urine. There's a lot of discussion about urine and waste products aboard space stations. Watch any NASA press conference where kiddos get to ask questions about how to live and work in space. But even though what has gravity is different for me and my engineers, I'll often find that what is most material to me relative to what other attorneys think is material is very different, because I like to focus on the forest, not the trees. And when I started this TED Talk, I really thought that I was going to make this kind of a joke TED Talk, in the sense that I would poke fun at attorneys, because we're so easy to make fun of for focusing on small, irrelevant things at times. You know, I think we've all seen Jurassic Park, and when the Tyrannosaurus Rex eats the attorney who is sitting on the toilet, disturbing theme too, instead of running from the Tyrannosaurus Rex, I think we all get a good chuckle. But I felt like that wasn't a big idea, focusing on the big overarching things instead of focusing on little details. So, falling into another attorney stereotype, I thought that I would, you know, go hunt down some precedents. And I remembered a few of the TED Talks that talked to big, grandiose ideas, like what I like to focus on, you know. And when people spend years of their lives researching bonobos monkeys or neurochemistry and figure out how a, you know, power pose can make you feel more powerful during a discussion, or how building nonsense robots can help you figure out how to actually get started on a project, I thought, oh, I'm sure that some of these TED Talks out here will give me a bit more motivation to talk about some big, inspiring topic. But then when I sat down and watched the Association of Corporate Counsel TED Talks, I was really surprised. Instead of focusing on big, grandiose ideas, ones that would materially change the world, they focused on small things, very personal things. The ones that really struck a chord with me were a discussion about cookies and how you can use a visual reminder of candy in your office to think about who isn't in the room when you're thinking about equality, and about backpacks of shame. And I got to thinking about the humanity of these discussions. Humanity is pretty important in the space industry. People want to do human exploration because they think that humans can return a lot more value in the few hours that they are walking around grabbing rocks on the moon than a robot can when it's driving around and drilling. And Elon Musk, who is using dragons to fly to the space station, pulls in the element of human happiness because he wants to build a future that he's not sad about, and that's why he's doing space. And John F. Kennedy, when he did his famous moon speech, focused on the fact that humans like to do things that are hard, and that's why we're going to the moon. And Victor Glover, who recently rode one of those dragons to the space station, and will be up there for a while, 6 months, in a online discussion about his race, someone asked him to stop focusing on race and keep talking just about space. And Victor Glover replied, "Who do you think is doing space? People are." And all of this made me think about what is material, what is important, what has gravity. Generally, I can say that enabling the commercialization of low Earth orbit and enabling us to go explore other planets is important. But why is that important? That's important because I want people to have long lives, fulfilling lives, happy lives. And what has gravity to me is sometimes different from what other people want. You know, just like JFK and Elon, and just like, you know, just like somebody who wants Chinese for dinner while someone else wants McDonald's, or, excuse me, didn't mean to pull in brand names there, but people have different things that have gravity to them, different things that are important. And in accomplishing the big things, like going to the moon, going to Mars, building space stations, building cities in the sky, one of the most material and important things, one of the things with the biggest gravity, is the people. And in a year where we're all separated from one another, physically, socially distanced, constantly participating in Zoom calls, you know, wearing masks, you can't see other people's faces. I just want to take a moment to remind people that even though all of our respective items of importance, things of gravity, the most important element in all of that is the humans. And to whoever has made it the full, I think this ends up being a 10-minute talk, you are material. You are made of star stuff. Literally the same atoms that form stars are now part of you. You are material. You have impact. You have gravity. Thank you.